At the shareholders meeting, we got to see the Tesla Cybercab up close. Not the original one, but the more refined and revised one, the one that may actually be the production model. It looks like production intent to me. They may have even crashed a few. So I want to get some information. I want to find out what's really going on. And outside of Tesla, I know but one person who has their ear to the ground who knows the most. It is Joe Tegtmeyer, drone pilot extraordinaire from Austin. From the air above Austin, from San Antonio, but that's
right.
Good enough. Let's have a chat about that. I'm Brian. Welcome to Future Ozza. So, Joe, you have seen the Cybercab from the air. You have seen it on the ground. You have touched the Cybercab, I imagine.
I have.
and you've got some unique insights, and you've shared with us some pictures. Let's start with just a quick thing I should mention is you are in the air all the time. You've got a channel for those who don't know. And if you don't know and you're watching this, I find that hard to believe. But do follow Joe Tegtmeyer. He is doing good work for the love of the game and the community. Show him some support. What do you think of the Cybercab just overall, generally?
Wow. Well, I mean, it's definitely a completely new direction for the company. I mean, despite what everybody talks about, building one that's meant to not have steering wheel, not to have pedals, to have a completely different production process, which is kind of revolutionary by itself. I don't know if people completely appreciate that yet. And of course, the factory to support it, that's been a long going process, that a lot longer than people think. I mean, they started modifying the factory for Cybercab over a year ago. So it's been going on for a long time. But overall, I think it's a pretty interesting product that I guess we're going to find out soon enough when they start making them how well it does.
All true things. And we will show pictures that you've grabbed from the video that they put out to highlight what we're talking about there. This is the Cybercab. We are talking about it because you were there. You got to see it. Let's look at this. This is what we're talking about. This is different. This is not what an assembly line typically looks like. Tell me what we're seeing here.
Well, first of all, this kind of brings you and me back to the very beginning where we're chasing grid lines. So when I saw the video out, I was actually watching to see if I could find any column numbers, and I found one, and it's W62. So that tells us a lot of things, actually, what's going on with the factory. First of all, fortunately it's located in the area that I've been saying it's located. I've been watching all of that equipment that you see being brought in and installed. But it's pretty interesting. First of all, that area of the factory when it was originally built had just 2 floors, and the bottom floor was pretty much body in white for the Model Y, where they have these big robots and they weld everything together. Above it was, for the most part, empty when they first built the factory. And that's actually a common theme with Giga Texas is they build the space and then they fill it later on. So they've added in extra floors in that area. So it's vertical. So it's not just a horizontal production line, if you will. And parts of the car, just like the Cybertruck, go up to different floors, different stuff is done, and it goes down. And this, I believe, is on what used to be the second floor, at least the ground part, and then you can see the mezzanine levels that have been added above that.
And this is the area where during construction we saw them storing robots?
Yes, we've seen a lot of stuff. The robots that you see, I've seen every single one of them arrive to the factory. So we've seen them arrive. They've been lifted up onto various different platforms. I mean, to build this out, they modified the factory itself. They took out walls, they took out windows, they put up temporary loading platforms in various different levels. So if you look at the factory, you can get an idea of how many levels there actually are. And then all of this equipment's been arriving by truck. Some of it's wrapped in kind of silver mylar type stuff. Some of it's in wooden crates. They move it inside, they assemble things, and then they recycle all the materials. But yeah, so we saw about a year and a half ago through the windows, just a whole lot of robots just sort of sitting there waiting for their turn to be installed. And this is what it's looking like.
Now, in a minute, we're going to talk more about this, but in this picture, we can see a passenger door side panel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you were talking about the body in white for the Model Y. For those who
Right.
don't know, when a traditional car is built, they put all the pieces together and then assemble everything onto it. This is going to take a very different philosophy where this side is kind of built all by itself and then just slapped on and affixed at the end. Is that
Right.
fair?
It's like the ultimate Lego car. You can think of the Cybercab as four main parts, if you will. And that's not counting the battery pack. Battery pack would be like a fifth part that comes in from the bottom. But for the body, the stuff that you actually see when it's on the road, there's four main parts. You have the rear part, which would be what we see here in gold, which would have that rear hatch, the rear kind of almost the bumper. It's not actually installed there, where the rear wheels would be, and that's all one unit. And they're able to assemble that when it's not a car. So getting in for access to install the wires, to install the interior, all that is much easier because it's not part of a car. And then you have two pieces. That gray one on the right is representative of that, and that's sort of the side of the car. It's where the doors would be mounted, and it's, if you're looking at the side of the car, pretty much that's what you're going to see in the middle part. And then you have the front section, and the front section is also built by itself. And then all four of these parts, after they're assembled to a certain state, are brought together onto this line, and they are basically bolted and using some industrial adhesive to put them together. And almost immediately you have the entire body of the car. A couple other things to note is, they use castings. So there's, as far as I can tell so far, I've identified three different castings. You have the rear subframe, which kind of looks like sort of like a ladder, if you will, kind of flat. You have a hoop structure, which forms sort of the roof and between the passenger compartment and the rear hatch. So it gives it that vertical shape. And then you have the front casting, and that's the basis for all the car. The side panels, those are parts that are still welded together. They're probably high strength steel to give you that crush strength on the sides. And then they have a little bit of an e-coating process, which is kind of corrosion. And then they put a little bit of from what I could see by some of the vehicles, not in that picture because it looked gray, but it looked like a black material. And that's pretty much the last of the painting. So there's no real paint. The body panels are kind of a plastic material that has the color as a pigmentation into it. So they don't have to paint it at all. So the only painted parts is really those side panels.
So let's take a look at this. This is just the map that we were just talking about. This is let's see, down at the bottom of this map would be the direction of the toll road, the highway there.
Right.
Down to our to the far side of this picture here is where the data center would be. And that just
to be honest, this grid layout is before they added the extension of the building.
Right.
So it's the original length of the building.
Right. And this is just pointing it out a little better. Mm-hmm. These are all from slides that you had sent me. And then if you want to see it from the outside, it's that kind of area right there.
Right.
So that's, and you can see the extension. You can see on the roof line where the extension had taken place. The university where FSD learns to drive.
Right.
is what that is. And a little closer up here, I think I've got that, and another angle of it. And this is what we were talking about. So imagine if when you got dressed every day, instead of putting on shoes, you had someone stitch shoes together onto you and then stitch pieces of cloth together into your clothes onto you. That's a complicated process. That takes forever. Even with automated machines, it would be a little bit of a nightmare. Why don't you make the clothes first and then just put them on? And that's the philosophy here. That's why this line looks wider than any line I've ever seen.
Yeah. There's a couple other things to note too, is basically there's very few, if any, stations for humans. So this follows something called design for manufacturability. So it's not just, the unboxing is not just a different way of building the car, it's a different way of ensuring that you can automate everything to the maximum extent possible. So with the verticality here, with the way the car's going, and you notice all the robots, this line is virtually human free.
Now that you mention it, the lockout zone is the widest and biggest and most comprehensive I've ever seen.
Mm.
This is a no humans allowed zone.
Right.
This is the kind of thing where in the not too distant future, they can shut the lights off because, so what we're
Well,
seeing
they could
here.
also run it 24/7. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah. Oh,
all you
yeah.
need is you have maintenance that you have to do for a little bit of downtime, but you don't have to worry about lunch or bathroom breaks or uh, any of the other things. And if they need to surge production, it's pretty easy.
Actually an excellent point because if, uh, yeah, how much production do we want?
Mhm.
Well, hire a whole second, third, fourth shift. Do you? Do you? Because the robots are not tired.
Mhm.
So, in terms of this side panel, what we're seeing is that it's not just a cutout, it is the structure.
Mhm.
Um, they've eliminated as many steps as they possibly can. Uh, have you been to this part of the factory, or are you allowed to say?
There's a lot of interesting things at Giga Texas.
I love it. I love it. Um, I was able to ask a number of questions to the engineers and the guides, and sometimes you're onto a winner based on their non-answers,
Right.
and that's valid. I mean, what are they supposed to say? They say they can't spill the beans, and yeah, this is pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And
One other
this
thing,
is
by the way, that circled area, well, you're going to show it here, but when we saw the latest version of the Cybercab coming out, I actually saw one a couple months ago, and it turned out to be pretty much the design we're seeing now. A couple of the biggest differences was in the door, the rear quarter window, the placement of the camera, and the fact that the windows now are frameless, whereas they used to have a frame. And that part that we're seeing here was re-engineered to allow all of those things to happen. And I suspect some of it is for manufacturability. And also, if you don't have a frame around the window, it's lighter, it's easier to manufacture, those kinds of things. But it also helps with getting in and out of it too. So I think that they were probably getting some feedback, maybe from the Wii robot, maybe some other testing about the ingress egress through the doors, maybe the height of the seat, whatever. So it prompted them to make some of these changes. So that part that I have circled right there is one of the biggest changes of the Cybercab from the prototype to what we're seeing now.
interesting. And I talked with one of the engineers at the shareholder meeting, a gentleman who was standing out front next to it. Uh, and I asked him about the door changes, and that's what he'd said is the changes are purely ergonomical.
Mm.
They have nothing to do with manufacturability or cost.
Mm.
It's all about the experience. And to those folks who say, "Oh, I couldn't get in and out of this car," I say, or the doors swing to, I say, wait until you see it. You'll
Mm.
understand.
From what I
Once,
could tell, the door swing doesn't change. It's pretty much what it was before. Maybe it's
right.
slightly different, but I know a lot of people were concerned about that, how wide it was from the car, and also was it something that you would run into as you're getting in and out of it?
Yes. And on the door, I've had people say, "Well, what if there's a tree there and I can't?" And I say, "Why would you stop next to a tree? The car can go another 4 feet and you're
Mm.
fine." And because, my garage, I don't know if it would open in my garage. Why are you getting out of your car in
Mm.
your garage? Get out where it's convenient. Let the
Mhm.
car do its thing. Well, parking spots might be too tight. Why are you in a parking spot? Let
Mm.
the car park.
Mm.
We have to rethink what a car is at some point. And what an opportunity. Hey, rumor has it there's a crash test facility there in Austin.
There's actually
What
one in Fremont too. They've been
There
doing
is one
work
in
at
Fremont.
both of them.
Oh, so what have you seen that you're able to share with us?
Well, right now they've had up to about 10 of these cyber cabs up there. They tend to put them under covers outside. They even put tires on them to make sure the covers don't blow away. But I've seen actually a lot of things around the site. For one, I've seen some cyber cabs that have the markings that are what you would expect for crash testing. So, they have like the little, I don't know what you call it, the target that has the black and white, go around the target itself. They have some of the markings off. So clearly they're doing something related to crashing it into things and just validating the design, probably doing some of the work necessary to get it certified for being on the road as well. I don't know if people completely understand the process of crash testing and certifying. And some people seem to think you can't use the cars until NHTSA sees them, whatever. But a lot of the car manufacturers actually do their own, and then they provide that. And then at some point later on, NHTSA may come in. So I think that they're doing a lot of that. Also, a lot of disassembly of the vehicles. Maybe they're testing, I don't know, the design, or they're checking to see on maintenance, or maybe they've redesigned a part and they're just going to see how it fits in. I don't know, but there's been a lot of disassembly. They've been using 2.2 post lifts on them a lot, so they're doing work underneath. I've just seen, and it drives me crazy because I haven't had a chance to get super high resolution shots. I know exactly where they're at, but there's two completely disassembled Cybercabs right next to the cathode building. And it's the rear part that shows the two-piece castings. And they're both in a crate sitting right there. And I've seen them, but I haven't gotten low enough to get the pictures yet. But that's going on. They've had a couple of wooden crates where they've been collecting parts, everything from the rear hatch to, I've shown the front hood. I think I may be the only one to show what the underside of the hood looks like, because I got a picture of that in pretty high resolution as well. So you can see it's kind of black, plastic material, and it's got relief sections in it for probably to sit around the equipment. That on the little video clip you can see at the very beginning as it's being assembled, you can see all the various pieces and parts underneath the hood. It's not a trunk, so the hood, all it has to do is shut over that. So they have all the relief spots so it can shut literally right on top of that equipment.
On the crash testing, I will reiterate what you said, which is that at least in the US, crash testing is self-certified. If you certify that it works, it can be sold, it can be put out there, and then they will verify it later, which is why manufacturers tend not to fudge the numbers. And what you just said after that, though, fascinating. What they could be doing is crashing them and then sending them over and seeing how hard to fix they are. Can we swap out the front module? The whole front section, how repairable is it? Because uniquely with this product, most manufacturers make a car and say, once it's out of warranty, it's your problem, buddy. Tesla plans to own these for a long time themselves.
Right.
They are the customer. So I think that would lead them to a different desired outcome. Would be my perspective.
Well, you bring up another point too, is people think of crash testing as destroying the car, crash testing like 60 miles an hour or whatever. But it's going to be very important for them to be able to fix a car that had a 5 mile per hour bump or a 10 mile per hour bump. And part of the design with this kind of modular construction process is that exterior, using that pigment kind of impregnated plastic panels. So if you've had a small accident, how easy is it to just pop it off and put it back on, or is it harder? So maybe they're working through the process of giving their techs, wherever the cars are going to be, who would be working on them, here's some guidelines. If the front fender is damaged, this is what you do. If it's damaged beyond this threshold, well, now we have a problem. So I think that may be what they're doing.
And now, in closing, what I would ask is, what is a secret that you're allowed, that you definitely can't tell me, but you're going to tell me anyway?
What is the secret? Some of the couple of first frames of the video, if you look really closely, you can see what I believe to be drive-by wire braking, which is necessary. And you can kind of get a glimpse of that. You can see some wires going to what looks like piston actuators onto those. And I think that it's not a secret, but I think it's necessary. And it's really good to be able to see those. I mean, you can like for the first second or two of that video, you can do A/B back and forth, and you can see all kinds of neat little things that are in that.
Would it
So
surprise you to know that I have been through every frame of that video? And
I'm sure.
yes, what we see under the hood, we do see the same kind of pistons you would see in the Cybertruck. I assume they're smaller because they don't need the kind of
Right.
strength that they would need. And in order to do unboxed, you have to have, well, 48 volts, so the
Hmm.
wiring harness doesn't run the length of it, but you also need brake-by-wire
Right.
because you don't want a hydraulic system that runs the length of the car. That defeats the purpose. And while I can't rule out that they might have to do a hydraulic system on day one, it looks like the Brembo brake-by-wire system that they've been
Mm.
developing and testing for 10 years will be mature in time for production.
Right. I guess the only other thing, real quick, is
Yes,
they are very confident
yes,
and they're
yes,
excited about what they're doing.
yes. And I've had a chance to interview the the five main engineers who designed and built it, and they are excited. They are
Mm.
delighted. They are proud of their work, and they should be. Uh, April's the big production target. Do you think it's going to happen in April? Do you think it might happen sooner?
I'm not too sure about sooner. I think what they're going to start doing, it might be next month, it may be January or so, is we're going to see what would be like release candidates starting to show up. And we'll start seeing larger numbers of them, and then they'll be testing them probably at Giga Texas at first, kind of like what we saw with the Cybertruck. Then we'll start seeing a little bit of different numbers of those, and those will be very important because it's dialing in the lines. It's making sure the equipment's doing what it needs to do. They still, even though it's automated, they still have to hire people in, and that process is going on. And I just reiterate one more time, I know you've done it too, is this is a completely new process with completely new equipment and a completely new set of problems that are going to come up. So, I think they're hopeful. They're, to me, pretty much on track that we're seeing this now, and it's just early November, which is very positive. But something could come up, and they're going to have to be working it between now and then. I'm sure when April gets closer, it's going to be like a madhouse in the factory.
I will tell you that years ago, when they were building the factory, when they were just putting together the 4680 section in the northwest corner, I got my production estimate to within 91 cars. And the reason I was able to do that was because back then Shanghai numbers were not published weekly, but monthly. And I said with confidence, I know I'm an outlier, but Tesla has sold a record number of cars in Shanghai. And I can tell because I went through all the footage and counted how many of the condensers were spinning in the HVAC towers, the cooling towers, how many of them are in motion in any given time. We probably had 8 or 9 videos during the month for me to check and count. And that meant that they were at capacity. I double checked it against the weather to make sure that there wasn't a seasonal difference. And I was right. And 1 week later, they changed the roof design above the 4680 and put the coolers inside with a cover.
Uh,
And I am sure that's pure coincidence, because if that was exposed, I would have a very good idea of the run rate on 4680s, and I
yeah.
don't.
Well,
So
that's going to be another challenge for them. Is we've heard about that just at the shareholders meeting. What's going on with the batteries and the dry cathode and all that stuff. But 4680s is going to be a high demand in 2026, and Cybercab is one of the big users.
for sure. Guys, in the comments, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? What comments and questions do you have? Who knows? I might even read them. I do. Everybody else, head over to Joe's channel, find out what's going on from the sky. I'm going to have Joe back in a day or two to discuss the lithium refinery in Corpus Christi, because once again, Joe has unique insights and we value them. Everybody else, stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots, perhaps this weekend in Tampa, where I shall be at Cyberfest and Furious.